Don't waste precious TikTok getting your Twitter up in someone's Facebook until now. Until you know who you're following. In this webinar, you will learn the key characteristics of tourists in Saskatchewan, along with how and where to engage them in advertising. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Harley Rivet. Harley is the president of Dish Digital. He specializes in online advertising and digital strategy. Harley is an experienced trainer regarding digital marketing, having spoken at conferences across North America and also co-founded the Saskatchewan Professional Marketing Association. Harley's passion in helping organizations identifying technologies and digital trends that can improve their marketing. With 20 years of experience in the online industry, he has worked with clients such as Tourism Swift Current, Cypress Hills Grasslands Destination Area, Lake Diefenbaker Tourism, and Waskesiu Wilderness Area. Welcome, Harley.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Nick. I'm just going to share my screen here now. And hopefully everyone's able to see this. Can you just give a thumbs up? Excellent. So, yeah, as Nick mentioned, I've got quite a bit of experience working with different destination regions around Saskatchewan. And I'm excited to share this presentation today because for the last couple years, I've been working with the southwest region of Saskatchewan, promoting that area with video campaigns and social media campaigns. So a lot of what I'm presenting here today is pulled from that experience and that research regarding the typical audiences that are tourists in Saskatchewan and the type of content that resonates with Saskatchewan tourists. So it's all very relevant examples and relevant research that I'm going to pull from. And I noticed as people were coming into the webinar today, there are some people from the southwest area of Saskatchewan, like Val Marie and Elbow I saw, and Regina. So, you know, some of this might seem familiar to you because you may have seen some of the advertising. But that said, all of this is going to be relevant to anybody in Saskatchewan tourism businesses. So with that said, I'm going to jump into choosing the right advertising for your business. And again, the emphasis is going to be on paid advertising online. So as far as our agenda goes, I'm going to start talking about strategy and audiences. I'm going to present a simple digital advertising framework, basically a formula to follow. I'm going to talk about target audience behaviors, the typical audience characteristics of tourists in Saskatchewan, and the content themes that resonate with them. And then from there, I'll move into objectives and platforms, where I tell you, explain the difference between branding and performance advertising. I'll give some examples of ad platform best practices, specifically for Facebook and Google. And then end things off talking a little bit about the metrics that you should focus on when measuring your goals and results. So here we go. Digital advertising framework. When you're doing your digital marketing, it can seem a bit overwhelming when you got your website at the heart of everything, but you have all this other stuff around it that you're doing, like social media and blogging and email marketing and review sites and all that. And it can really feel like, what the fun is this going to be trying to figure things out? You probably thought I was going to say something else there. But, you know, none of this is magic. There's a fairly simple formula to follow when deciding on your online advertising. Make an offer. This is at the heart of any advertising you do. You don't want to just send people to your homepage with your advertising unless you actually have something you're offering. So there's different offers to think about when you're doing advertising. There's the top of the buying cycle offers, which are like free white papers and free guides and free videos. In the middle of the buying cycle is where you're offering stuff like free webinars or case studies or catalogs and spec sheets. And then at the bottom of the buying cycle, you have things like trials, demos, and coupons. So when doing paid advertising, you always want to have an offer associated with it. And I'm going to keep coming back to this, and I'm going to keep harping on this because it's quite often something that's missing from a lot of online paid advertising I see is people just put up a generic message and send people to a homepage. Give people a reason to click on that advertisement. Have an offer. And it's really about moving people from branding, which is generating interest, to performance, where people have an intent on buying your service or your product. So here's an example. As I mentioned, I did a bunch of work for Southwest Saskatchewan the last couple of years. We did a big video campaign online where we were promoting online driving tours in Southwest Saskatchewan. So we could get people moving around the area to see what it all has to offer. And so this is a top of the buying cycle offer we had where it was like, hey, check out these video previews of driving tours and then download a map for the routes. So that was the gist of it. So we had the ads on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. People clicked on the ad. They went to a landing page, and we had landing pages on Cypress Hill's website, on Lake Diefenbaker's website, on Tourism Swift Current's website, where people could go and access these different driving tours and download a map. And it was a free PDF, and then people had it they could take on their phone or what have you. So, simple example. Let's talk about our target audiences. Birds of a feather flock together. Now, when I was working with Southwest Saskatchewan, we did some market research on the type of audiences that represent typical Saskatchewan tourists. And I know Saskatchewan Tourism, they've done a lot of research too, and a lot of this research that we did lines up with the sort of stuff that Saskatchewan Tourism shares on their own website. But in summary, here's a nutshell. The typical Saskatchewan visitor persona are people who have traditional values, they're self-reliant and practical in their consumer habits. They tend to be skeptical of advertising, so factual information is required to inform and educate the audience rather than sell a product. So practical, don't try to make yourself look like something you're not. We're not selling Las Vegas here. This is Saskatchewan. We have to focus on our strengths and be honest about it. And the three main audiences, the three main target markets for Saskatchewan tourists are as such. You have your mature singles and couples, you have your middle-aged families, and you have your empty nesters. Now, that's not to say the people who are your patrons, whether it's for Jazz Fest or a sailing school or a WDM museum, it's not to say you're going to have people outside of these target audiences, but these represent the biggest majority of the typical Saskatchewan tourism patron. And I'm going to go into each of these a little more in detail. But my point is this: if you only have $1,000 to advertise for the next couple months for your event or for your hotel or for your outfitter or for your destination, focusing on these three target markets are going to get you your best bang for the buck. So let's go into them a little bit more in detail to show you some characteristics. So mature singles and couples. There's a lot of information on this slide, and I'll have this presentation available for download at the end so you can have this. I'm going to focus on a few things. Mature singles and couples it's a rural group that consists of mature singles and couples with strong traditional values. They're family-oriented, community-minded. They typically travel with friends and family and have a high interest in nature, okay? The median age of this demographic is actually around 57. And this is something that's going to actually come up for all three audiences, is the median age skews a bit older for Saskatchewan tourists. So when you're doing your advertising, you're going to have more bang for your buck by targeting people 30 and up. Now, it may depend on your service. If you're a music festival, yes, maybe it's going to skew younger. But I'm just talking in general that the ages tend to skew older, over 30. Now, key activities of this audience are camping, arts, crafts, visiting parks, city gardens. Media usage is something I want to point out. That's the top right corner I'm referencing right now, is they use Facebook the most, a bit of Instagram, and also YouTube. And you're gonna see some consistencies across all these three audiences where Facebook is actually the #1 platform where you're gonna reach these people for all three target markets. Moving down to the box at the bottom is reasons to follow brands, is to get coupons or discounts, learn more about a brand's products and services, and enter contests. Key social values, there's attraction to nature, community involvement, confidence in small business. Again, these values are something that's shared across all three of our audiences. People want to support local businesses. They do, and they have attraction to nature. So that's mature singles and couples. Let's move on to middle-aged families. This is primarily an urban group that of middle-aged families who prefer creature comforts and worry-free vacations and cultural highlights. They're what you call gentle explorers. They don't want anything too adventurous. They want it to be easy, but they also want to be in nature and escape from the day-to-day stresses of city life. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is these are middle-aged families. These are not people with toddlers. These are people with kids that are probably tweens or maybe in their teens that are a bit more sufficient. They can go cycling, they can go hiking, they can go zip lining. So that's something to keep in mind if you offer a service like that. Again, camping, cycling, arts, crafts, media usage, again, Facebook at 82%, Instagram 34%, YouTube 67%. Again, like I said before, we're seeing a trend here of where these audiences typically spend their online time. Going down to the bottom, reasons to follow brands. Again, learn more about a brand's product and services, get coupons and discounts, enter contests. That's a recurring theme. Get coupons and discounts, enter contests. Key social values, need for escape, attraction to nature, technology anxiety. Finally, we have our older families and empty nesters. So again, a more of a rural group. Think of the people that like to go in their RVs and trailers and go on road trips. They're typically retired or near retired. And they just like, spending time in nature and fishing and hanging out with family. Again, you look at their key activities, the media usage, again, Facebook is #1. You can find them on Instagram, and they also actually use YouTube more than you would think. Reasons to follow brands, coupons and discounts, enter contests, okay? Recurring theme. So that should make you take note that if you are doing online advertising, have an offer that is a coupon or perhaps a contest or a special promotion, because that's what these people are going to take note of. Saskatchewan people are frugal. We're always looking for a deal. We're do-it-yourselfers. Don't want to spend a whole lot of money on things we think we can do ourselves. Yeah. So those are your three main audiences to consider. Again, your product or service may be a bit different, but this is the majority. So know your audience and their lifestyle behaviors, then formulate your content and choose ad platforms. So the point I want to make here is so often we get caught up with what's being hyped up in the media. Like, oh, TikTok is the #1 platform now. No, it's not. 20% of Canadians use TikTok, okay? And that audience tends to be 18 to 25, the majority of them. Now, if your product or service is targeting that 18 to 25-year-old demographic, go for it. But just because TikTok's in the media And I'm not slamming TikTok. I'm just saying you have to choose what's right for your audience. So just because something's being hyped up in the media as the next big thing, like TikTok or who knows what's next, you don't necessarily have to get on it and be there. Focus on where your audience is. And in the case of Saskatchewan tourism, the majority of them are still on Facebook and Instagram. So let's talk about some advertising content themes. And again, this is based on research that we did when developing the campaign for Southwest Saskatchewan tourism. I actually analyzed all of the social media followers for Cypress Hills, Destination Area, Tourism Swift Current, and Lake Diefenbaker. We analyzed all the followers for their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts. And so this is going to be a good proxy for other Saskatchewan tourism providers as well. The most popular social content was landscape scenery, nice pictures of landscape. So even if your business is a cupcake shop, maybe show landscape of the community you live in. Wildlife scenery, of course, that always resonates. Trophy fishing, outdoor activities, people actually doing things or perhaps taking part in your services, being active in the actual environment, whether it's your shop or your outfit, actually showing people being active, taking part in your products or services. Lake, beaches, and sand, of course. And finally, communities and people. Something I find often missing in a lot of online advertising and especially social media content is not like supporting and promoting your customers and your communities you belong to. When we did the Southwest Saskatchewan campaign, the great thing was we were showcasing different communities in Southwest Saskatchewan. So when these people saw the advertisements that had a driving route that went through their community, they were way more likely to share it. So including your customers or your communities in your social media posts and your online advertising will help you get shares.
Where do you live there?
All right. If I could just remind people to mute their mics, please. Main reasons people click on advertisements, here we go, is discounts, as I've mentioned before. That's number one. Giveaways, coupons, novel information, something new that people might not know about your area or your service. That is something that resonates. Oh, sorry, I missed one there. Tips and advice. So, listicles, top 10, how-tos, that stuff resonates. Like the driving tours was an exact example of this. We were giving routes that people could go on that would show them the highlights of Southwest Saskatchewan so they don't have to figure it out themselves. All right, objectives and platforms. I'm going to focus on a few platforms, but I'm going to start by talking about objective-led advertising. And I'm going to talk about the difference between branding versus performance, ad platform best practices, some tips to help you stretch your budget, and then finally measuring ad results. So a quick note on branding versus performance. Branding, it promotes the entirety of the brand using storytelling and the products as proof points that support the brand's promise. Most of what I see on social media is branding. People just kind of sharing general information on their stuff. And a lot of your organic social media is branding. It's kind of day-to-day stuff, and that's fine. But I often find too much time is spent on branding and not enough time, especially with your paid advertising, is on performance. And performance promotes a specific offer to generate a user response, resulting in an immediate measurable outcome for a product. So that would be a coupon, a discount, a special promotion, a limited time offer. If you only had $500 to do advertising, I would put it towards performance because that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Now, in the long run, you need a mix of branding and performance. So I'm not knocking branding because I think there's a time and place for it, but branding's a long-term thing. If you want immediate results and you only have a small budget, put your money behind some performance advertising. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on for the most part. So when it comes to advertising, you have the spectrum from interest to intent. With branding, that's your broad display and video. Those are just your generic display ads on the web, your generic video ads. This is stuff like event sponsorships. This is your organization and your staff volunteering or donating. This is community involvement. That's all branding stuff. And again, it's over the long term, okay? Don't expect immediate sales from branding. Branding is the long play. Now, when you're looking at branding and performance, social media kind of fits in that middle spot, depending what sort of content you're putting out there. Thought leadership, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but if you're a subject matter expert, if you're an expert on sailing, like there's probably really good blog content or videos that you can put out there showcasing your expertise that will draw people to your organization. Or if you're a music festival, interviewing musicians or having video previews of the bands, this stuff works. And of course, offers and landing pages, that's the Southwest Saskatchewan campaign we did, where we had videos of driving tours, driving people to a landing page where they could download a map. Paid influencers fall under kind of a hybrid of branding and performance. But if true performance advertising is paid search and targeted social with a specific offer to a specific audience for a specific term. Also doing email marketing. If you're not developing an email list of your customers or prospects, that is one of the cheapest, simplest things you can do because there's a 99% chance someone's going to see your email versus a 1% chance they're going to see your social media post. Email marketing is effective and not used enough. And of course, free samples, coupons, discounts. Again, that comes back to having a bottom of the funnel offer. So again, make an offer. I keep hammering on this because it's really what any paid advertising needs to start with, especially for performance. And it goes from branding to performance. So let's talk about where the different online advertising platforms fit in this spectrum. So if you're doing any stuff on YouTube, YouTube's really about storytelling. YouTube's more of a branding platform. Once again, I think video content is great, but again, on stuff like YouTube, it's going to be more of that branding. When you move on to Instagram, very visual, that's for influence. Something that's really increased in popularity and getting a lot of engagement is Reels on Instagram. In fact, Reels get more engagement than regular static posts. So if you're considering, if you boost any sort of content, consider boosting that short form video content. People are spending a lot of time on Reels, and that can be performance based. You can have a call to action to encourage people to take advantage of an offer. On the Facebook side of things, a lot of people use Facebook for customer service. Hey, are you open this weekend? What's the menu? How much are tickets? A lot of followers of Facebook pages are there for customer service. So it is a great place to put performance-based advertising. So if you have a special sale or a promotion where you can reward people that follow your Facebook page with an insiders only discount. And then with Google Ads, that's where people are actually trying to solve a problem. They're actively searching for your product or service with keywords. So yeah, this just shows you the spectrum of what platforms kind of fit where between branding and performance. Again, if you only had $500 for the month to put behind some advertising, I would focus on Facebook and Google Ads because that's going to be your best bang for the buck. Now, when I say Facebook, I really mean Meta, and that includes Instagram as well, because as we discussed the target audiences, a lot of them are on Instagram, especially the kind of the younger side of the audiences. But again, bang for buck, use Meta to drive website traffic ads. And I'm going to get into this in more detail. Meta to drive website traffic ads and search engine ads on Google to capture that traffic that has intent, that is already looking for your product or service. So those would be my two platforms to focus on if you could only pick two. And again, it kind of moves from branding to interest. Facebook, you can be performance oriented as well. Search engines ads are definitely performance related. So let me share some ad platform best practices that I've learned in 15 years of doing online advertising in these areas. Number one is if you're going to be doing any Facebook paid advertising and you want to set up campaigns beyond boosted posts, okay? I'm not talking about boosted posts here. I'm actually talking about creating an advertising campaign. You need an ads manager account. And hopefully many of you here already have this. But if you don't, get one. Go to facebook.com/business and get an ads manager account because it's going to give you a lot of capabilities to do campaigns. Now with Facebook, it's all about demographics, likes, and interests, right? That's how you target people, is what they're into, what pages they're following, their behaviors, okay? So the two types of Facebook ad campaigns I like the most for most bang for your buck is either doing a traffic campaign or a leads campaign, okay? Now a traffic campaign is kind of going to be the best bet for most people of driving traffic to a particular page on your website where you have an offer or something specific. Leads is where you can actually capture people's contact information right within your advertisement on Facebook. But it has to be a low involvement thing, okay? I'm not buying a car based on a leads ads on Facebook because that's going to take a lot more research. But if you want people to sign up for a list that gives them discounts on early bird tickets or something like that, or hey, here get a free trial, use a lead ad to capture that information. But anyway, traffic and leads are my two favorites. Now, of those two favorites, here are my favorite Meta advertising types, and that is video templates that Meta provides for doing some branding campaigns, dynamic creative ads, which I'm going to describe, and of course, lead forms that I mentioned. So as you can see, these span the spectrum of branding to performance. But as I mentioned, you should lean your advertising campaigns towards the performance side of things. So when we talk about video templates, Facebook actually has some cool templates in Ads Manager that allow you to turn stuff into videos in your ads. When we did the Southwest Saskatchewan campaign, we actually, made these videos ourselves. But, it gave an overview of the driving tour and then people could learn more. When doing video ads, try to keep that video underneath 10 seconds because people aren't going to stick around for much longer than that when it's an ad. Dynamic ads. This is an ad format in Facebook Ads Manager where you can upload a bunch of different images, upload a bunch of different headlines and descriptions, and Facebook automatically combines them for you to find the best fit that is resonating the most with your audiences. So it uses its algorithm to show a combination of the different pictures and headlines. And depending on what people are responding to the most, then Facebook decides to serve more of that combination. So it does the work for you. It takes the guesswork out, and Facebook finds the right combination. So dynamic ads is something I like to use because it saves a lot of time in setting up, where I just let Facebook do the work for me. Lead forms, as I mentioned before, this is for kind of more involvement, low involvement things. But as you can see, people click right on the ad in Facebook. You can select some options. And they submit their information, and you can download all the information already. Really quick, easy, low friction way to get people to sign up on, specific offers. Now, some tips to stretch your budget. When you're doing a campaign on Meta, minimum amount of money you should be spending is $500 per month per 200,000 people. So when I do any sort of Facebook or Instagram ads in Saskatoon for a month, I will never go lower than $500 per month as a bare minimum. Now, if you're just doing some boosted posts, I would say a minimum of $5 per day for 7 days. I wouldn't spend anything less than that, because otherwise you're not spending enough money to get enough impressions or to make any sort of impact. Now, when you're evaluating your online advertising campaign and whether it's successful or not, things you should be focusing on: your cost per click. In the tourism industry, you really want to try to get that cost per click less than $1. That's ideal. If you see if you're paying like, $3, $5 per click, it means your campaign is not resonating well enough, or there might be too much competition, or your ad quality is not good. Aim for that less than $1 cost per click. Now, your click-through rate should be greater than 1%. And I know that, 1% doesn't seem like a very high bar, but, you're hoping to get a lot of impressions, and, I'm happy with anything that's greater than 1%, to tell you the truth. Now, some different industries you're going to want to shoot higher than that. Hotels, for instance, you want a click-through rate probably of like over 10%. Engagement rate, at least 10%. So when I say engagement rate, these are the people that are clicking on your ad. These are people that are commenting on it, that are liking it, that are sharing it. Those things all go towards engagement. You want at least 10% engagement. That is a magic threshold for Facebook. Once you exceed that 10% engagement rate, Facebook says, oh, this is content that resonates. We're going to share it more. Because, Facebook wants to share content that people are already liking. So that 10% engagement rate is key. And I'm going to tell you a little secret about how you can calculate that on your posts. Ad quality factors. Do you have a targeted enough audience? That's important. And when you set up a campaign in Ads Manager, Facebook tells you whether your audience is too narrow or too broad. Make sure you have some good targeting. Comments are worth 6 times more than likes. And so this applies to your organic content as well. But when you get comments, that really is a signal to Meta that your content is resonating and is engaging. And of course, shares are best. When we did the Southwest Saskatchewan driving tours campaign, as I mentioned before, when people saw their communities showcased in these driving tours and in these videos, they wanted to share it across Facebook. We got almost as many free impressions from people sharing as we did for what we paid. Another important thing is when you're crafting your ads is the ad content itself has to match the website destination. So if you're promoting a particular discount or a limited time offer or ticket sale or soup of the day, where you're sending those people with your ad has to have content that matches that ad. That contributes a lot to your ad quality and earns you more impressions. It says this is a good ad. So that's meta. Now, when it comes to your organic posts, boost your best performing organic posts, ones that have 10% engagement already, because Facebook already knows they're doing well. So choose those ones that are doing well and boost them. And then you'll get a lot more reach, and turn those best performing boosted posts into campaign ads. It's a pretty simple formula. Find what's working on your regular page or your Instagram, and then turn those into campaign ads. And try to run some ads for branding and performance at the same time. Again, long term, you want to have both. But as I mentioned before, if you have a limited budget for a limited time, focus more on that performance side of things. So how can you calculate that engagement rate easily? So this is a post from Tourism Swift Current where they had a mother and daughter coming from BC, crossing Canada, and they stopped in and they got a sticker from Tourism Swift Current, so they could put it on their cargo carrier. It got a lot of clicks, a lot of comments, again, sharing stuff about people. But when you're looking at your Facebook page, on any post, you're going to see insights and ads. Okay. When you click on that, see insights and ads, it's going to bring up a metric for you. And it's going to show you your total insights. It's going to show you your post impressions, reach, and engagement. So a simple little napkin math is you just divide your engagements by your impressions to show you your engagement rate. So here we have 13% for this post. So boom, that's ideal for me to boost because I already know it's exceeded that threshold of 10% where Facebook is like, yeah, that's a signal that this post is good. So easy, quick little tip so you know which posts when you're doing organic content to boost or turn into a full-fledged campaign. Find the stuff that's working and do more of that or put some money behind it. Now, when you actually turn those posts into a campaign or you're just developing a campaign from scratch, some of the most important things to consider are your image in that Facebook ad and your headline. That's what people pay attention to the most. So experiment with those main images and your headlines to see what works the best. And this is why dynamic ads are great, because Facebook does the combinations for you to find the perfect fit match. Colors, people, and images. When doing your ads on Facebook, consider using contrasting colors to the white and blue so they stick out. So using maybe some yellows, reds. Again, this may or may not apply to your situation. I'm just giving you some tips on what I've learned. Include people in your images. Ads with images of people or posts, organic posts with people, always get more engagement than just pictures of a plate of food or even just landscape scenery. Add some people to that landscape scenery and you'll have more engagement. And another tip is less than 20% text on your image. Facebook used to be more strict about this, and they would actually decline ads that had too much text on an image. They've since kind of been a bit more lenient with that, but I still try not to have too much text on the image itself and focus more so on the people in them. All right. And also have a Facebook pixel on your website through the campaigns manager, because that allows you to track conversions. Once you reach 1,000 people on your website that came from Facebook ads, you can actually retarget them on Facebook. So you can be really efficient with your ad budget and only target the people who have visited your website and show them ads. Google Ads. Okay. The other most bang for your buck. So Google Ads allows you to do search ads, display ads, video ads because they own YouTube, and app ads, multiple formats and platforms. They're building in a lot of artificial intelligence that makes these things easy for you to create. So it's you get to show ads across the Google network. I'm going to focus specifically on search engine ads, which, they're ads targeted by search terms. So, if I'm looking for attractions in Southwest Saskatchewan, I do a Google search, I get my results. Guess what? There's no ads currently targeting attractions in Southwest Saskatchewan. So like if you have that sailing school or some sort of outfitter in Southwest Saskatchewan, or you're doing the Regina Folk Festival, there's a big opportunity to get to the top of the page. You just buy your way to the page. So these search ads are all based on the keywords people use to search. And you can buy your way to the top. You can also do display ads and get them to show up on related websites to people who, might be into RVs. And your display ads could show on their websites where Google has media relationships with. Tips to stretch your budget. Again, with a Google Ads campaign, $500 per month per 200,000 people. It's kind of like the magic number. I would never spend less than that. And Google wants you to spend money with them. They are going to make it easy for you to set up a campaign. You can actually ask a Google specialist to set up your first campaign for you and give you some training on how to do it. So that's nice. Cost per click when it comes to Google Ads, it tends to be more expensive than Facebook or Meta, just because there's more competition. It's been around longer. It's really, performance-based. There's way more people searching for products and services, but your target cost per click should be around that $1.50 to $2 for the travel and tourism industry specifically. Your click-through rate for travel and tourism is actually 8 to 10%. And again, it's 8 to 10% for Google Ads because you're targeting people that are already searching for your product and services. For Facebook, I said a good click-through rate was 1%, but that's because you're not really targeting people who are in the market for your services. You're just targeting people who might be interested. And that's why it's lower. That's why Facebook is like 1%. But on Google, you're trying to reach people that are actively searching for your service. So you want a higher click-through rate. 8 to 10% is good for travel and tourism. Advertising types you can do. Smart campaigns with Google Ads are easy to set up. Very few dials and settings to adjust. You can be up and rolling fairly quick, but you do have limited control. And that's why I do advocate more so for using the full Google Ads platform to do responsive ads because you have more control. But again, if you just want to dip your toe into doing search ads, smart campaigns make it pretty simple. Pricing factors, your competition level. I'm currently doing a Google Ads campaign for a number of hotels and resorts in Saskatchewan. And so we're competing with the Booking.coms and the Trivagos.coms and the Expedias.coms because they take a lot of traffic away from the main hotel websites. So advertising for hotels can get a bit expensive, but if your ads are good, you'll have a lower cost per click. And right now I'm down to like 13 cents per click. And I'm getting top of the page. I'm beating Booking.com. I'm beating Expedia.com with ads that are for the hotel for people to go direct and book direct with them. But that's because we have a decent budget. Too small a budget will waste efforts. So again, if you're only advertising to say Regina or you're only advertising in Saskatoon, minimum of $500 per month, bare minimum. If you're spending less than that, you're wasting your money. you're not going to get enough impressions. Now, when it comes to where your ad appears on Google search results, I have found that the best value for the cost per click is position 2 or 3 in search results. You don't have to be number 1. Number 1 is the most expensive spot in search results to be. I mean, it's great if you can be for cheap. But if you're getting in that second or third position, it's good. You're still top of the page, but you're paying less for those clicks. Now, with Google Ads, you have to choose the keywords, the search terms that people are going to be using to find your product or service. So Google has it built into their system where you can type in some terms that people might be using, and it'll also suggest other related terms. But you really have to think like your customer, okay? Sometimes businesses are a little too inside their head and they have their own way of talking about their products and services, but it's different than how their customers talk about it. Perfect example is I used to do Google ad campaigns for a forklift company who sold and serviced forklifts. Well, in the forklift industry, they call it material handling, or those different zoom booms or scissor lifts, right? That you see guys using. They call those aerial work platforms. Well, that did not work for a Google Ads campaign because their customers were not using aerial work platform or not using material handling equipment. That's not how customers used it. So we had to use terms like zoom boom and scissor lift and forklift because that's what customers were using. So my point is here is when you're choosing the search terms, think like your customer because they don't always use the same terms that you do. And that's what keyword planning provides. Again, with any ad, whether it's Meta or it's Google, the content on the website needs to match the ad copy. That's going to help with your ad quality score, which is going to get your ad more impressions. Again, unless you're doing an absolute 100% branding campaign where you're just sending people to your home page, okay, to create some general awareness, if you're doing more of a performance campaign with an offer, with a coupon, with a promotion, send it to a page on your website that has matching content that is about that particular offer. Very important. Now, Google Ads can get complicated quickly. I did mention the Smart Campaign feature, which can get you doing a search campaign fairly quickly. But if you want to learn more about it, there are free Google Ads courses that you can go through the Google Academy, skillshopwithgoogle.com. I encourage you to do so if you want to learn more about it. As I mentioned before, a Google specialist will help you set up your first campaign. But if you really want to do a good job with this, it is advised to educate yourself. Because if you don't use Google Ads correctly, you can end up wasting a lot of money, especially if your ad is showing up for search terms that you don't want. So, example, I knew a Windows installation company in Saskatoon, like, home windows, residential windows, glass windows. Well, they were just trying to capture traffic for Windows installation as a search term on their Google Ads. Well, guess what they were competing with? They were competing with Microsoft Windows. So they were getting a lot of clicks on their ad for people that were looking for Microsoft Windows, and they ended up spending a lot of money for clicks they didn't want. So that's just a word of caution about Google Ads is you want to make sure you're using it correctly because you don't want to get traffic for people that are not looking for your business. Now, let's talk about measuring results. A few things around advertising measuring. between branding metrics and performance metrics. So if you're reporting to your boss or you're a business owner and you're wondering, hey, what's the return on investment of this? What should I be looking at in terms of metrics that tell me whether I'm doing well? There's a difference between branding metrics and performance metrics. And lots of times people only focus on branding metrics. And again, branding metrics is long-term stuff. That's not immediate move the dial right away, okay? Branding metrics, I like to call vanity metrics. They're worth noting, but they're certainly not as important as performance metrics. So when it comes to branding metrics, reach, that is how many people did my advertisement or did my post reach, okay? Good to know. What's even better is how many shares or mentions did that post get or that ad get. That's a better signal of a good post or a good advertisement. Impressions. Certainly it's good to know how many impressions your advertisement or your post is getting. But what's more important is your click-through rate, okay? So if I had a Facebook page with 1,000 fans, okay, and I got 500 impressions, that's okay. But if I had a page with 500 fans and got 500 people click on the ad, that's way better. So you have to think about it in relation to how big your audience is. Pages with, more fans, or even if you're putting more money behind your campaign and getting a lot of impressions, it doesn't mean much if you have tons of impressions if no one's clicking through. So focus on click-through rates more so than impressions. Views and visits, of course, that's great if people are clicking on your ad and visiting your website. But what's more telling is what is the share of traffic from your different marketing efforts. So how much traffic are your paid advertisements driving to your website compared to, say, your email marketing or your organic social? That's something to make note of, whether or not your advertising efforts are having any impact. Are they actually driving a large portion of traffic to your website compared to everything else? Branding metrics, friends, fans, and followers. Yes, everyone likes to have friends, fans, and followers. But what's more important is what is the growth rate of those friends, fans, and followers. If you have 1,000 followers and next year you have 1,100 versus someone who has 500 now and 1,000 next year, I'm going with the person who has 500 now and 1,000 next year. That's way more important because that's a way better growth rate. Engagement, likes and comments. Marketers love to report on engagement, but do we really know if that moves the needle or not? It's nice. It's a vanity metric. What's more important is, are we getting inquiries? Are we getting leads? And a little bit of ad math here is branding metrics are your cost per 1,000 impressions versus a performance metric is your cost per lead. Again, performance advertising is about getting people to take action on an offer. Branding is just creating awareness and getting people to visit and familiarize themselves. So that brings me to the end of the presentation, and I can see there have been some questions that came through the chat. I just want everyone to know that this presentation deck, as well as a Cole's Notes summary of the key takeaways, are available at these links, at these bit.ly links. So, you can quickly jot those down if you want to download this presentation deck or get a summary of the key takeaways. But I'll turn things back over to Nick here because I think he was moderating some of the Q&A, and also there were a few questions that came up in the chat as well, Nick.
Yeah, so the first question is you narrowed down to an emphasis on paid online advertising. Are you able to comment about offline, print, and other dropped because less important, valuable, or ROI?
Well, the focus of this presentation was on digital. So I didn't, address print or any traditional. So, I mean, that comes down to your audiences and where you can reach them. But I mean, unless we have a specific conversation on traditional advertising, I can't really comment on tips on those right now because that wasn't the focus of today's presentation.
Perfect. Another one, in regards to less than 20% on images, what about the text in the post? How much is too much? What about some of our target audience who like more information? Do we put in more text?
No. People's attention spans are so small that you don't, if you put in more text, people are going to see your ad with more text and they're just going to be like, oh, that's too much work. I'm ignoring that. Focus on key points and then drive people to your landing page or your website where you can provide them with more information. You ask how much is too much. Like I said, if you have an image, have less than 20% of text on your image. If your targeted audience likes more information, provide it to them on that web page, on that destination. You could say, learn more to find out. Click here to get more details. But with online advertisements, you have a small window to grab people's attention and entice them to click through. So I would be mindful of how much text you use. People tend to use way more words than they should. Sell the sizzle and then have the details on your website or landing page.
Perfect. That is, you mentioned that the second or third page is good place to be in Google search advertising because you're getting more value for your money. My question is, do web visitors really check the second or third page results?
Just to clarify, I did not mean second or third page. I meant the second or third result on the first page. So on the first page of Google results, Google reserves space for advertisements at the top on the first page. And so I mean specifically the second or third from the top on the first page.
Perfect. Are you able to just, again, reemphasize what's the way to calculate engagement again? Or just not reemphasize, but what's the way to calculate engagement again?
Yeah. So engagement is when you take your engagements, so your likes, comments, shares on your post, and you divide that by the amount of impressions that post received. So let me see if I can quickly go back to that slide here. Oh, did I stop sharing? Might have.
Possibly there.
Sorry, one sec. I didn't mean to do that. Can you see my screen still or no?
Nope, it's just you and us.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to share this again. Oh, you know what? Screen sharing has failed for some reason. Let me try one more time, okay? Can you see it?
Oh, yep, there we go.
Okay. Oh, it's gone again.
It's back, yeah.
Zoom is getting wonky on us. All right. Anyway, I don't, for some reason, Zoom is not cooperating, so I can't show you that. But yeah, it's just your engagements divided by your impressions. It's pretty simple. But you just have to look at your organic posts and make that calculation.
Next question. Any reviews on Yellow Pages as an agent for digital marketing? They offer a yearly package, one sponsored placement, network synchronization tools, and or mobile online listings, which include Google Ads. Would doing it myself be better option with Google Ads and Facebook?
I'm just reading it here. Any reviews on Yellow Pages as an agent for digital marketing? I've never used them myself, so I can't really comment on their packages for sponsored placement. It just depends how much time you have. You can figure it out yourself and do it. Or if you don't have time, you can hand it off to them to take a look at. I encourage anyone to actually look at doing it themselves because this is not rocket science. Facebook is actually pretty easy to set up ads on. But Google Ads is a little bit more difficult. I would actually call Google Ads to help you set up your first campaign there. I'm going to try to see if I can share my screen again. Okay, Nick?
Okay. And there's another question that's popped up as well.
Okay. Vicky, is there a ratio for tourism-based businesses that should be followed regarding digital spend? Example, 20% or more of total marketing budget in this day and age. I think your marketing budget should be, in general, your marketing budget overall should be 10% of your revenues. That's just a general guideline of what you should budget for marketing when it comes to your business. So of that 10% of revenues, a portion of that is going to be for paid advertising. What that portion is, I mean, it's up to you depending on what your marketing includes. Are you attending trade shows? Are you, doing traditional stuff? Are you, doing mail outs? So it's up to you to determine that mix. What I can say though is, as I mentioned before, is if you do choose to do some online advertising with Meta or Google, is follow that $500 per month per 200,000 people rule as your minimum. And I recommend you never advertise for less than a month, unless you're doing some boosted posts, right? Like you just want to boost a post for a week because it got good engagement. But if you're doing a campaign, 1 month minimum, ideally 3.
Perfect. So next question, how long before the opening up date of a business should you start digital marketing on Facebook and Google Ads? I'm opening up in February, but the store is under construction, so I'm not sure if I should start now or when the business is ready.
Well, you could always do a coming soon general awareness campaign, depending what the nature of your business is. But yeah, if you were to do any sort of campaign, you could do a coming soon emphasis, just to kind of generate some general awareness. This is branding campaign. But you would want to follow that up as soon as your business opened with some sort of like grand opening offer and have a campaign regarding that. So you really want to be careful though that if you do a campaign now before you're open, that emphasis on coming soon, because you do not want to drive people to a business that is not ready, or where your product or your menu is not ready yet. So definitely emphasize the coming soon. I think that's okay. And then follow it up with a campaign as soon as you're open with a special grand opening offer.
Perfect.
I just want to come back to Sarah Marchadon's first question about emphasis on paid online advertising and commenting about offline print or other being dropped because it's less important. I don't really feel like I answered that well enough. I know I said the purpose of this presentation was on digital advertising and to give you tips on that. I still think there's a place for traditional marketing, whether it's offline or print, TV. But it really depends on your audience. Again, it all comes back to where is your audience and how are you going to reach them? Yes, more eyeballs are going online nowadays. But you know what? Maybe a direct mail piece makes sense for some of your audience. If you're targeting kind of maybe that older age group, if you're going after the empty nesters and the older singles and couples, maybe a direct mail campaign makes sense. Because those people still like getting hard paper mail. So again, it comes down to who is your audience. And I can't emphasize it enough. You should always think about your audience first and where you're going to reach them. When it comes to digital, Facebook, Meta, and Google search are going to get you 80% of those eyeballs. And don't get caught up in whatever's being hyped up in the media. Focus on the facts, focus on who your audience is, and find out what works and do more of that.
Thank you so much, Harley, for joining us again. We really appreciate all your insight and understanding, what the best way to get, I guess, the most bang for your buck for all these businesses and operators that we do have here. So again, thank you so much for your time.